Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. We start off the final round with Senior Attorney at Law, Mr. Gomindashri. Mr. Dashri, are you for the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, or are you against the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, which gives power to independent commissions? Give me a yes or a no.
I was against it, now I'm more against it.
Are you against it because you lost the battle?
I was the petitioner, I went to court, I argued my own case, and I argued strenuously that this 4 years and 6 months rule is going to be very anti-democratic, because it will mean that we will forever have weak governments. And what was the result of it? In the judgment, not a word on that aspect, which was, I was supported by so many other counsel also arguing the point. That is the time I say the real weakness of the Supreme Court is displayed colourfully.
But you just said the Supreme Court is doing a good job.
But I'm saying now the Supreme Court today is doing a much better job, because you have got a whole lot of young lawyers. Appointments like, I don't want to name names, but almost everybody is good except for one or two old timers. They'll retire gracefully, I hope, very soon. But otherwise, that was a different time. Remember, 19th Amendment came just as this government came into office. This government, not only with regard to the Supreme Court, even the lower judiciary interference is much less. I'm not a supporter of this government, but I got to say the true facts. But that is why I say, have this prosecution process completed out quickly, because the judiciary has improved. We will get better judgments. They won't look at political, they won't act on telephone calls or on messages sent. So now that we have an improved judiciary, what we lack is the prosecutor process. So that must be advanced.
What is your message to the government, Mr. Dashri?
My message is all these present politicians of all three, whether it's the SLFP of the new SLFP outlaws or the old SLFP outlaws or the UNP outlaws, this generation in politics who have been in the political field for the last 30 years must be retired off. And we must get young people, because that's the only hope. New, fresh young people, not their families holding to succeed them. But that is the only salvation for Sri Lanka, because otherwise our politicians will finish this country.
Is good governance in practice, Mr. Dashri?
Good governance is not in practice, it is daily deteriorating. When this government came, people had expectation. They had high expectations. They had too much of expectation. That is why even people like Mr. Suchpal are disappointed. Their expectations were too high. They expected government to do far beyond what is within their means. They didn't recognize the inefficiency of this government when they voted him to office. Even Reverend Sobit, I think, never realized it. He realized it very soon thereafter. But now they are disappointed. That's why I say, if that was a fight between the good governance kids of 2015 and what we call the nationalist of 1956, the good governance kids won. But good governance kids are today, I'm shocked. So one of those people who are very close to Reverend Sobito is making statements condemning the military intelligence, condemning the defense secretary. Now those are things that they should not be, they shouldn't pick incidents like this. There are far greater issues. The most important issue to me is discrimination. I think, even I hope my learned friend on this side will take that point up. Why are they not taking all the politicians who did wrong things into file action against them and investigate them? Why are they only selecting those who oppose them? Why are they putting them in the forefront? Why are they being paraded before the FCID? My fear is next time people who are paraded by this before the FCID may be the very people who might use that as a trump card to come into power.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomindashri, Senior Attorney at Law, joining us this evening on the show. We now focus our attention on Mr. Lakshan Das, Attorney at Law and Chairman of Transparency International Sri Lanka. If you were to advise the government, you said that you are not the government spokesperson a couple of times, but if you were to advise the government, what would your advice be?
I think for me the most important issue is to solve the ethnic issue. We are still struggling with the ethnic issue in Sri Lanka. There are a lot to do, reconciliation and so many things, which may not be part and parcel of the good governance, but it's also a very important burning issue. I think one thing, and I'm very much I mean, at least I'm tolerating with this government is that, okay, at least on that direction, government is doing something better. So I
in
mean,
which direction is this?
The solving the ethnic issue. I mean, bringing the new constitution and I mean, sharing power with the minorities. These are things that I expected mainly from this government.
Mr. S, I want to pose this question, to interrupt you and pose this question to you.
Sure.
Why is that almost the majority of the NGOs in Sri Lanka talk about an ethnic issue when the war is over?
I think you are mistaken. There are two things. One,
what have I mistaken here?
War and conflict is two different things.
Okay.
We are still within the conflict. The war is over, but we are still within the conflict. The minorities of this country, the Muslims, the Christians, the Tamils, they're all in the conflict with the majority single, the hegemonic power of the country. So
isn't this what is orchestrated by NGOs in Sri Lanka?
Not at all, Samir. Even people like Colin Adizilwa, they said this thing very correctly 60 years ago. So Colin Adizilwa is not an NGO man. He's a
Let's not draw a parallel towards good governance and the ethnic issue. Let's talk about good governance. What is your advice in respect of good governance?
Yeah, I think my advice is, okay, I mean, there are certain things, like when it comes to good governance, it's not only the corruption, but issues like rule of law, right? We have to establish rule of law. If you can at least establish the rule of law, then the rest we can look after. So that is something prime for me, to establish rule of law. And if we can establish rule of law, we can also challenge the corruption. We can also challenge the ineffectiveness if there is in Attorney General Department, and also we can challenge I mean, all the various scams and scandals by various groups. So that is something which I'm very much keen that if the good governance government wants to establish. So that's my advice for them.
Mr. Transparency International, your title itself says transparency, work towards a corruption-free society. Why can't you all set aside the RTI and the three areas that you all are working on and start taking the Attorney General's department and start fighting for justice for the larger population in the country?
Well, it is not the focus of the Transparency International at the moment, but I as an individual, of course, I'm in that fight. I'm very much I mean in the line of challenging the Attorney General Department most of their lapses. So I think I'm doing that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lakshan Das, for joining us this evening, Chairman of Transparency International Sri Lanka. Mr. Rusiripala, am I to pose a question to you, or are you going to take the baton and run? What do you want? A question?
Left to you.
Let's finish off tonight's show on what Sri Lankans must do, what citizenry has to do right now. Let's not talk about the government. What is the role of the people of Sri Lanka?
Yes. I think before I come to that, from this forum, I want to make a statement about the President's statement that was very severely not criticized, of course focused today, what he made. I think we have to appreciate the stand taken by the President as members of the public, because to me it appeared that he was giving vent to what we were thinking of what was happening in this country. That these commissions were not doing their work properly. There was something which apparently was what we saw was some kind of stalling was taking place there. So President was the right person to voice that opinion on behalf of the people of this country, and that meant a lot. And we can't also forget the fact that President of this country, Mr. Dayasiri, was focusing on the application of executive powers, but let us all understand that this President, unlike any other President before, is working with a lot of restraint. The political combination that he is heading today is a very big issue for him. We all know that. So therefore, with all those restraints, I think he is trying his best to lead the country gradually, but with a specific objective, and that he appears to be a bit slow, but it should happen.
The citizenry, what must the citizenry?
Citizens should take the lesson from Reverend Sobit. We should not wait anymore. We must all form what is called the People's Action Party. The people must get into action. People must demand things. People must ask the resignation when resignations are wanted. People must demand action when action is wanted. People must demand justice where justice is denied. That is what is required in this country today. From the side of the people, people should come up. Leadership should be taken by people, those who can afford to take the risk. Of course, today we are scared to talk in spite of the RTI. We can't talk in public because there will be a letter demand asking for billions. But still, we have to fearlessly go forward. We'll serve terms in jails. We don't mind, because those people who earn those billions will never see the inside walls of a prison any day. Those walls are meant for people like us. We will see them with our eyes, because they are not going to see those walls with their eyes. They are only trying to serve letters of demand on us with billions, demanding billions. This has happened. I want to quote what Fidel Castro said in his speech addressing the courts when he was prosecuted under Batista government. He said, those people who robbed the government of millions of dollars, those people who set fire to a factory with laborers to claim a false insurance claim, they wine and dine with the judges in the nights. Those people who go to rob a loaf of bread for the sake of the hunger of their children, they are sentenced to jail by those same judges. And those people see the inside of jails, and these rogues and culprits will never see the inside of jails.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rusiripal for joining us this evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Lakshan Dias, Chairman of Transparency International, for joining us on the show tonight. And of course, Senior Attorney at Law, Mr. Gomin Slashdri, for joining us this evening. Also, Mr. Rusiripal, public interest activist, for joining us this evening on the show as well. Thank you very much, Nadeem. Thank you very much, Sonali. Thank you very much, Chaturanga, for joining us this evening tonight on the show. One thing is clear. Good governance is essential for Sri Lanka's long-term success. Everyone has a responsibility. You at home have a responsibility because you elected this government. Tomorrow marks an important day in the Sri Lankan calendar. The first death anniversary of Venerable Sobiotera, who orchestrated, who championed change in the island nation. It is time for us to reflect what he said, take the most important things, and then move forward. Because at the end of the day, Sri Lanka is a nation that is now moving forward. I leave you tonight with a quote. Every soul shall have a taste of death, and we test you by evil and by good way of trial. To us must you return. Chapter 21, verse 35, the Holy Quran. Take care and good night.